Hi, my name is Emily. I went to Brunswick, Germany at the Technical Institute of Braunschweig. My advisor here is Jeanette Van Hel, and my advisor in Germany was Holger Hopp. So some background on my research. The main thing that I was looking into was convergent and divergent thinking. I think that this picture explains it very well. Convergent thinking is when you have one specific answer to a problem. So everything leads to that one answer. All of your thoughts lead to that one answer. Well, divergent thinking is you're given a problem and there are many different solutions to it. And you can analyze how creative each solution is depending on what they said and how many other people before have thought of that solution. So I looked into the convergent and divergent thinking of bilingual engineering students in German and English. They're L1 and they're L2. So the goal of my research project was to answer the questions: how are bilinguals' divergent and convergent thinking outcomes affected by the language that they think in, so in their L1 versus their L2, and to what extent do prior problem-solving activities in the L2 influence later divergent and convergent thinking in the L1 and the L2. So the second question, The second question was came back to this warm-up problem-solving task that I had. This task was presented to the students, and it was a real-life task. Had to do with traffic lights in the winter and how we would be able to prevent traffic lights from getting covered by the snow. So that kind of sparked their creative thinking, and we looked at how this creative thinking initially influenced their convergent and divergent thinking in both of their languages. So the translational significance: I'm a chemical engineer, and I think that it's very important to be able to think creatively. I don't know why I couldn't say that. In both your first and your second language, especially if you plan on using your second language in the field. I eventually hope to use German in the field, so many engineers have to solve problems and think creatively in their L2, especially because a lot of engineering companies nowadays are international and they're working with other countries. So an example is at Volkswagen, which is a German company and major employer in Braunschweig, which is where I studied. The language of communication at the Research and Development Division is English, even though it is in Germany. So the native German speakers need to be able to think creatively in English if they want to do well in their job. So I also kind of looked into our creative thinking outcomes in L2 different from those in their L1. So the method that I used, I recruited and tested 39 German engineering students with English as their L2 and German as their L1. So as I said before, there was a warm-up problem that involved a traffic light, a real-life problem, where they had about 3 minutes to think of as many solutions to the problem as they could, and we kind of ranked those based on creativity. There was an alternate uses task in the L1 and the L2, a remote associate task in the L1 and the L2, and Lextail and AXCPT tasks to test their English and German abilities. And the AUT and the RAT tasks were counterbalanced in their L1 and L2. There are actually 8 different computations that could be used with the participants. So we were aiming to get 40 students, but one backed out last minute because 8 times 4 is 40. So for the alternate uses task, this is the one that gives us an opportunity to look at the divergent thinking of the subjects. So in this task, the subjects were given an object, such as like a box, a toothbrush, a cup. In this case, it's a cup, and you have to think of as many uses for the object as you can. So you can see, put toothbrushes in it, use your phone, use it as a holder for your phone, for a plant, and I don't know what that is. Use a golf ball. Why is it on its side though? Oh. I couldn't figure it out. I can't even do this. Okay. So that was the idea, and they were given about 2.5 minutes, and they completed it in their L1 and their L2. And then the remote associates task evaluated the convergent thinking of the individuals. So in this case, they were given 3 words. For example, cottage, Swiss, and cake, and you have to think of one word that relates all of them. Does anyone know? Yeah, cheese. And then they did that in their L1 and their L2 as well. And each of these had like warm-ups and before they began the task. So this leads me to my results. So the preliminary findings with the AUT, there were 624 oral responses that I had to transcribe and translate. So it's still ongoing. It's not completely finished. But as of now, we have analyzed that there were more responses generated in their German L1 than their English L2 in this Divergent creative thinking task. Responses contain more detailed ideas in their German L1 versus their L2. And I believe also that this is because when you're learning in L2, you learn the basic concepts that you need to know to be able to function in an English setting. You don't really learn all of the creative aspects of the language and all of the words that you would need to use in this setting. And similarly, there were more correct responses in the L1 German than the L2 English. The responses were faster. The response time was much lower in their L1. And these scores also correlated to their proficiency in their L2. So those were assessed by the Lextail and the AXCPT tasks. So now a little bit about my experience. I stayed in Braunschweig, Germany. It's a very small town. There was some shopping there. I mostly walked on trails and stuff. I was one of the only students in this area, so I kind of made friends around the town, but it was a very pretty town and a really cool experience. I also traveled to 8 different countries with some of the other PIRE students. There on the left, that's Sydney. She presented last week. And then there's Yu Shuang. She's back there. And Sydney again. But it was very easy to travel, and it was a really good experience because you could kind of make your own schedule around your research project and what you needed to get done. And I would highly recommend it for anyone that wants to pursue PIRE in the future. Thank you.